On the night of the 8th of June 2026, while the football world was counting down the final hours before the most watched sporting event on the planet kicked off on American soil, a 34-year-old Somali referee named Omar Artan was sitting in an interrogation room at a U.S. airport, staring at walls instead of a pitch, with every valid document he needed right there on the table, and a Customs and Border Protection officer across from him who had already decided the answer was no. At that exact same moment, FIFA's commercial partners were posting World Cup content across their social channels, the host city banners were lighting up across 4 American cities, and the organization that had personally invited Omar Artan to this tournament was not making a single phone call on his behalf. This is the story of FIFA's massive mistake with Omar Artan, how Donald Trump's immigration architecture swallowed a World Cup appointment whole, and why Europe did what the sport's governing body refused to do. Let's start with what the official record shows, because the official record is the thing that makes FIFA's silence so indefensible. Omar Artan held a valid U.S. visa. He carried a diplomatic passport secured through the Somali embassy in Nairobi. He had the formal FIFA appointment letter naming him as an official for the 2026 World Cup. He cleared every professional threshold the system required, boarded his flight as an accredited tournament official, and arrived at the border of the host nation with paperwork that should have opened every door in front of him. None of the official statements addressed the fact that every box the system required him to check had already been checked before he ever left his country. And this is where it gets worse, because what stopped him at that border had nothing to do with football credentials and everything to do with where he was born. Omar Artan spent 17 years building a career that put him in this position. He earned his FIFA badge and carved out a reputation across African and continental competition as one of the most technically accomplished officials of his generation, picking up CAF's recognition as Africa's best referee and forcing his way into UEFA-sanctioned fixtures at a level most officials never reach. Since 2018, he logged 52 assessed matches under UEFA's Observer Network, posting scores that placed him in the top tier across the entire continent. Champions League assignments followed, Europa League knockout rounds followed, and the cross-confederation consensus was the same everywhere. This man belongs at a World Cup. While hundreds of licensed officials competed for tournament spots, Artan cleared every technical and professional filter FIFA's selection committee set. He was not a lucky pick or a diversity appointment or a political gesture. He was the most qualified official from his region by every measurable standard the sport uses. What he could not qualify his way past was the fact that Somalia appears on the United States travel restriction list, a political document that has nothing to do with football and everything to do with the immigration posture of the Trump administration. That changed when the CBP officer made his decision. U.S. Customs and Border Protection held Artan in a questioning room for 11 hours, and that number deserves to be read slowly, out loud, so it lands properly. Not a brief secondary screening, not a standard additional check. 11 hours of detention, ending with his visa canceled and his deportation confirmed, while his World Cup match assignments sat in FIFA's scheduling system waiting for a man the host country had just thrown out. An American official cited terrorism-related connections as justification, a claim that no independent authority, no intelligence review made public, no FIFA investigation has substantiated with a single piece of evidence. Artan himself told the New York Times what those 11 hours felt like, and his words were not the words of a man who felt he had been treated as a football official. He said they stole his dream, and he believed the only issue anyone in that room had with him was the country printed on his passport. While he sat in that room, FIFA posted its official matchday graphics and confirmed its broadcaster partnerships without interruption. FIFA did this. They selected him, credentialed him, sent him to an airport in a country whose immigration policy they had known about for years. The host nation's border system canceled his visa. FIFA accepted the outcome. The football community received a 4-sentence statement that described his removal as a consequence of entry denial, as if the organization that chose to stage its tournament inside Trump's America bore no responsibility for what happened to one of its own officials the moment he arrived. None of those 4 sentences contained a protest. None of them contained a demand for explanation. None of them contained a single word of institutional anger on behalf of a man who had dedicated 17 years to earning the right to be there. And this is where it gets worse, because FIFA's silence was not accidental. It was a choice made by an organization that decided its relationship with the host government was worth more than the dignity of one referee from Somalia. The European reaction was fast, loud, and impossible to misread. UEFA's Referees Committee, the body that had graded, developed, and deployed Artan across 4 consecutive seasons of elite competition, moved within days. Multiple UEFA member associations filed formal correspondence, demanding transparency from FIFA about what safeguards existed for tournament officials traveling from countries affected by US travel restrictions. European football figures across the punditry circuit, former officials, federation administrators, and active coaches stated publicly that what happened at that border was unacceptable, and that FIFA's non-response made it worse. And then UEFA did the thing that words alone could not do. They assigned Omar Artan to referee the 2026 UEFA Super Cup final between Paris Saint-Germain and Aston Villa, the single highest profile club match UEFA controls outside of Champions League final night. PSG, Champions League winners. Aston Villa, Europa League champions. A global broadcast, a packed stadium, and a referee whose name the American border system tried to remove from this summer's football conversation permanently. That appointment is not routine scheduling, it is European football's governing body, placing on the official record of the sport a judgment that contradicts everything the CBP officer decided in that interrogation room. Pull back further and the wreckage spreads wider than one referee. The 2026 World Cup's visa and entry crisis did not begin and end with Omar Artan. Senegal's squad faced processing delays that disrupted their pre-tournament preparation schedule at a level no national team should absorb 11 days before a World Cup. Iran's delegation navigated bureaucratic obstacles that generated formal federation complaints weeks before the opening match. Uzbekistan's travel arrangements required intervention at the highest administrative level. Somalia's own National Football Federation issued a statement calling what happened to Artan a national disgrace and demanding FIFA take formal responsibility. The pattern running through every single one of these cases is that the disruption fell on delegations from nations that exist on US travel restriction lists, a political architecture built by the Trump administration's immigration posture, and one that FIFA walked its tournament directly into when it awarded hosting rights to the United States without negotiating binding entry guarantees for every accredited participant. In 2010, FIFA held its tournament in South Africa, and every accredited official entered without incident. In 2014, Brazil processed the entire tournament credential system without a single documented deportation of an appointed official. In 2018, Russia, despite the political climate surrounding the tournament, did not deport a FIFA-credentialed referee at the border. It took hosting rights in America in 2026 to produce the first documented case of a World Cup official being detained for 11 hours and thrown out of the host country, and FIFA's formal response was 4 sentences. What nobody at the Federation addressed in the years between the 2026 hosting rights announcement and the tournament opener was a simple operational question. What happens when the host country's immigration policy overrides a FIFA accreditation? The answer, it turns out, is that nothing happens. The tournament continues. The commercial revenues flow. The matches get assigned to whoever is left after the deportation, and the organization releases a statement that uses the passive voice to describe an active injustice. FIFA's governance reform documents, published and republished since 2016, contain explicit language about protecting the professional rights and dignity of match officials. Those documents did not travel to that interrogation room. Gianni Infantino, who has spoken at length about football's power to unite the world across every political and cultural boundary, did not appear at a press conference to demand answers about what happened to one of the tournament's own appointed officials. The reform language is always present. The reform behavior appears selectively, when it costs nothing. This is like a club signing a player, flying him to the stadium for his debut, watching the security staff turn him away at the gate, and then releasing a statement saying the club respects the security team's decision. FIFA built the gate. FIFA chose the security company. FIFA printed the credential. When the credential stopped working, FIFA issued a statement and went back to its schedule. And the man who earned that credential spent 17 years being told that if he did the work and cleared every bar they set, the tournament would be his. He cleared every bar. The bar was moved to an airport interrogation room, and the institution that set the original bars said nothing worth hearing. What the UEFA Super Cup appointment does, in the language of football institutions rather than press releases, is answer the question of what Omar Artan's career actually means. UEFA is not in the business of symbolic gestures. It is in the business of running the highest level of club football on the planet. And it does not assign PSG versus Aston Villa to a referee. It does not fully trust and fully respect. That appointment is a verdict. It does not restore a World Cup that was taken. It does not undo 11 hours in a room that smelled nothing like a football stadium. But it places on the permanent record of the sport the judgment of the people who actually develop and deploy the world's best referees. And that judgment is unambiguous. What should unsettle every person watching this summer's matches is not the CBP officer, not even the Trump administration's travel list, because those are external political forces that exist whether football likes it or not. What should unsettle you is an organization with the financial resources, the institutional influence, and the years of advanced knowledge to have negotiated binding entry protections for every single one of its accredited tournament participants, and which chose not to, because the deal with the host nation was already signed, and the commercial machinery was already turning. And one referee from Somalia was, in the final calculation, a cost the board was willing to absorb. The football is real. The passion is real. But the institution that controls it made a decision in that moment that tells you exactly what it values and exactly who bears the cost when those values are tested. So when Omar Artan walks out to center circle for the UEFA Super Cup final, ask yourself this: what does it mean that the organization that was supposed to protect him said nothing, while the continent that actually works with him every week gave him the biggest match it had? A like on this video helps more than you think. And that's a wrap on today's breakdown. If this analysis helped you see the game differently, smash that like button. It means the world to us. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss our next tactical breakdown, prediction, or insider scoop from the football world. Got a match or a team you want us to cover? Drop it in the comments below. We read every single one. Check out the video on screen right now. You won't want to miss it. I'll see you in the next one. Stay sharp and stay inside the game.